All right, so hello. Welcome to the Arthur Liman Undergraduate Fellowship info session for summer 2023. I am Lindsay Granger Weaver. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Senior Associate Director of Internship Programs at Beyond Barnard. So I manage this program, all the other programs that we're having events for this week. Fun times ahead. Oh, you can mute yourself. That'd be great.
Oh, shit.
Well, that'll be fun for the recording. And let's get started. Okay. And yes. All right. So this is what we're going to talk about today. Basically, who is Arthur Liman? Why are we promoting a fellowship in this person's name? Also go over what the fellowship is and some of the benefits of participating, and then go over pretty deeply the application pieces in the process, just so that you're clear that when this opens up, these are the things you'll be expected to have and to know. And then we'll have some insights from the actually 2022 cohort. Love a typo, but we'll get to talk to a few of them who are here and get a sense of their experiences, and then next steps and some general Q&A. So let's get started. So this was Arthur Liman. He was a law school graduate from Yale and very into both private practice and also public service. You can read on here all of the great organizations he was part of. A lot of them are still participants in the internships part of the program. And his wife was a Barnard alum, or is a Barnard alum rather. And so she loves to read about what everybody has done over the summer who was a Liman Fellow, definitely provides comments. And so it's a tight-knit program, I think, because of who it's based on and who, currently manages it. So just a little bit about this person. So the fellowship criteria, so you have to work at a nonprofit organization that is engaged in public interest law. As you'll hear from our previous participants, public interest is very wide ranging. The minimum of 8 weeks, usually programs are around 10 weeks during the summer. Full-time is a requirement. It can be, as you'll see on another page, it'll be in-person, hybrid, or remote. That doesn't really matter, but it's open to students of all levels from first years to graduating seniors. And you can also apply, most likely you'll apply before you get an internship. That is not a requirement of the application or even being accepted, but it is a requirement of receiving funding. And so given timelines, can you all mute, please? So given timelines of the program and of kind of the application, you're more likely to apply without having secured something, but we do work with you on that. And this page is about finding one of those internships. And so has to be public interest, 8 weeks long is the minimum. Like I said, in-person, hybrid, or fully remote, although experiences of folks in this program and some of the others from last summer that dealt with law, fully remote can be an issue. And to find something, it's really helpful to talk to students and alums of both the program and of the college who work in public interest law. There are a lot of Barnard alums who work in this area. A lot have also come through the Liman program. And so it is nice to hear their experiences, but also for them to kind of like connect you to resources and connect you to perhaps opportunities that may not be available at the moment. And so what you can do right now, since you, again, don't need to have something in order to get in, is to start to identify organizations that you would like to apply to. So if you think about what interest areas you have within the public interest field or what causes you would like to impact, start to see who's doing that. And then you can also reach out to those organizations to see if they have internship programs, what it would take to get one of those, what the application window would look like, just so that you're prepared once they open to apply. Also, job boards, Handshake is one that may have things. a lot of these organizations will be on a website called idealist.org, which is the go-to for like social sector, public sector positions across the board, not just law. And so you can use those to find opportunities once they're posted, but also to find organizations that may be of interest to you. And then Beyond Barnard can help. So we can talk to you about, what your application can look like, provide some insights into maybe where other people have worked, either through Liman or through the Beyond Barnard internship program, which does have a lot of folks within organizations that would count for this. So there are a lot of different ways to find an internship. I don't want that to be anyone's deterrent from applying, because there's plenty of support for getting that. So the benefits, there is a stipend. Last year's rate was $5,000. It's looking like it'll be about the same. There are also meetups and events with the Barnard cohort over the summer. Also the Guggenheim interns who are in criminal justice, try to connect those groups last summer. It was successful-ish. And then also through the Liman Foundation partner schools, you can be hooked into that network. Participation in the Liman Center Colloquium, which is every spring at Yale Law School. Expenses are paid, which means expenses are reimbursed. That is the way we pay things. But it was really great last year. Sonia Sotomayor was there. It seemed like a great networking opportunity. I looked at pictures and was very jealous. I couldn't go. But it's a great time to connect as a cohort from Barnard, but also to connect with other folks who are in these partner organizations. And then Summer Fellows become part of this larger network of public interest advocates and scholars, and the Liman Fellowship name is known throughout the public interest field. And so it's really useful both in the short term and the long term with accessing opportunities and just being seen as somebody who's kind of like a vetted public interest law person, and that can be helpful later on. So the application process. So the application will open in January. Exact date to be determined, probably around the start of classes, because we want you all to take full advantage of the break and actually have a break. The link will be in Handshake, but also will be emailed. So anybody who has not filled out the interest form, please do. There's a QR code later on in this that links to it, but it's also in Handshake. The application itself is a one-page resume, and since we are a career office, the resume is important. So come in, have someone review it before you submit it. A reflective essay, which is the key points to hit. Tell us about yourself, your interest in the program, and how it fits your future goals. It's pretty simple, but it can tell a lot if this is something that you kind of came to on a whim, or if it's something that you deeply care about, issues that you're deeply passionate about. We want you to take this time to really tell us what you're interested in, tell us, nerd out a little bit on these interest areas, because we really does come across in reviewing the applications, like who just wants a stipend and who really wants to make an impact. And then an internship statement. So like I said, you're not expected to have secured something, but you are expected to have a sense of kind of like the general constellation of organizations or organization types that you would like to apply to once those things are open. And so the application will close in February, again, exact date TBD, usually about 3.5 weeks after the open is when we close them. And then we'll start to review. So once they're closed, all on-time submissions, please be on time, will be reviewed and scored. We're really looking for thought out responses to those questions. So to that essay, make it make sense, have some effort, have other folks look over it for you. And then just like relevant and logical internship sites. If you say that you are interested in making an impact in one area, but then none of the internship sites you are thinking about applying to are part of that, that's going to be some difference. So try to make it make sense, make it all come together. We'll interview select candidates late February, and hopefully by spring break, we will have the selections for the next cohort. Before we go into insights, are there any questions about any of this so far? All right. So some insights from summer 22. It's correct on the slide. It looks like Renata is not here, but we do have Sharmi and Mary. Thank you so much for coming. Whoever wants to start can start, but I would just say the first, just introduce yourself and tell us where you interned. Tell us a little bit about where you interned over the summer.
I can go since I'm listed first. Hi, everyone. My name is Sharmi Azrael. I use she, her pronouns. Senior here at Barnard, majoring in ethnicity and race studies, minoring in political science. This summer, I had a great time as a Liman Fellow, but I worked at the Asian American Bar Association, and I helped basically with their admin tasks, so basic admin, intern like jobs, but my focus is Asian American activism, especially surrounding hate crimes, and with the focus of like really getting involved in the pro bono clinic that we would do monthly in Flushing and in Chinatown, Manhattan. So mine was very focused on that, but I did gain a lot of skills, and I had a great time. Very, very reflective summer, as well as one that I will take to my future career endeavors. Mary?
Great. I think we lost Mary.
Oh no, I'm here.
Oh, you are? Okay, you like popped off my screen for a second. Okay, Mary, please.
Hi, I'm Mary. I'm also a senior. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a political science major. And yeah, I was also a Lyman Fellow last summer. I interned at Brooklyn Defender Services, which is the public defender's office in Brooklyn. And I interned with their investigation unit in their criminal defense practice. So I worked as an investigative intern with 2 other interns and who were also college students. And we went through pretty extensive training process. And then we started getting assigned our own criminal cases to investigate on our own. So that involved a lot of field work in Brooklyn. Most interns at this particular organization are tasked with getting surveillance footage and doing some like very, very basic interview tasks, just asking people if they saw anything. So it was a really engaging internship. I absolutely loved it. I really liked exploring Brooklyn as well. And I'm actually continuing working there this fall semester as a part-time intern. So I'm going to be finishing that up in a couple weeks, which is crazy. But yeah, I had kind of an interesting application process to get this internship. I didn't hear back from them until like right before the summer started, and I had something else that was fully remote, but I thought this would be a better opportunity. I'm very glad I ended up taking it. So yeah, I think if I had one tip that I could offer people, it's that if you're interested in going into like specifically public defense internships, a lot of them won't post on like job websites like Handshake, but they'll post on their own websites. So if you just look at websites like Legal Aid or Brooklyn Defenders or the Bronx Defenders, like they'll have internship opportunities available on there, which is how I found this one. So just a tip.
Great. Yeah, pro tips here. No, those were both really interesting internships. I remember hearing about them over the summer and kind of I'm like, wow, that's more fun than me in my office all summer. So what's one thing that you wish you knew about interning in this area of law before doing it? I know sometimes in like speaking to folks both through Lyman and through other programs and just general internships that it's very different than what you maybe have an idea about going in, or sometimes it brings up some things. And so I'm just curious, what you wish you knew or what you could tell your past selves about your internship.
Yeah, I think you really need to take initiative and be very intentional about like either projects you take on or like what your overall goal and objectives are. And I think that's why the reflective essay is a really good thing to spend a lot of time on, because it really helps you kind of guide and provide a roadmap to your own summer. One thing I did was I really want to learn kind of like legal skills, how to write, like research very intensively and like talk to a lot of lawyers about like what they did, more of like the networking side, but also really understand why public interest is like meaningful to me as like someone who wants to do this work. So those were kind of my goals. And I very much communicated that like right off the bat to my supervisor. And that was really helpful in kind of helping, okay, I'll assign you to these kinds of tasks. I'll have you connect to this lawyer who worked in this field. And they were like very, very much like make it your own, but you have to really know and take initiative in that way. One thing I didn't like communicate as well though is I wish I had more court experience. So I have very limited court watch experience, but when I did go that once, we were actually going through a case for an Asian hate crime, and basically the defendant ended up killing himself, which was really interesting. And it was like, that was very much a shock and more of like, oh, this is real life that you're handling. But kind of those experiences will really like get you in terms of like public interest law and more of like the defender's offices, and like these kinds of offices is not something you'll get from more of like the white collar big law firms that you'll see. You really get more of like the people centric aspect, but I didn't know that I would enjoy more of like being in court and litigating and like kind of talking to like different lawyers, but I wish I communicated that sooner. So be very intentional, write your goals and what you want to take out of it. Mary?
Yeah, I think one thing that I was surprised about going into my internship was the level of independence that we were given as interns. I think that there was a extensive training, like I said, like we did a lot of shadowing about all the investigators who are like full-time people on the team, and just overall training. But after that, it was sort of like, okay, now you get your cases and now you're kind of just like thrown in. There isn't too much hand holding. So I'd say that that's like, if you're really interested in figuring out if like Sharmi was saying, like if public interest is for you, like working with these kinds of offices is a really great opportunity. Public defense is what I'm speaking about because that's where I interned, because a lot of times they just have so many cases that there's not a ton of opportunities for you to get too much busy work, is what I found. Like usually they were giving you pretty substantive work. And also people remember, at least I can speak on for the investigative team that I worked with, I guess investigators are a big part of public defense offices, which I just didn't know about. And a lot of them are pretty young, and a lot of them are recently graduated from college, if not like 1 or 2 years out, like less than 5 years out of college. So they remember what it's like to be an intern. So they're really helpful. And they're really willing, if you're interested in exposing yourself to a certain type of case or a certain type of work, they'll like let you tag along in basically anything, which is super nice. And then oh, I had something else. Yeah, similar to Sharmi, like there's so many opportunities to observe things in this field too. And normally if you just ask, you'll be able to see it. I was able to go to arraignments at the end of my internship with an attorney, and all I had to do was just like ask if I could take the day and shadow someone, and they found someone for me within a couple days. And it was like one of the most impactful and meaningful experiences I had in my internship. And then also I was able to go to the NYPD ballistics lab and like see what it's like they do these certain, it's like complicated, but they do these like gun tests of like evidence tests. And so like I just asked if I could go see that one day, and like an attorney let me tag along. So like, yeah, if you just ask and if you just want to see these experiences, like most of the time people are like happy that you are so interested, and they'll like let you tag along, which is nice.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think one thing we see in these types of organizations, and especially nonprofits in general, is that the interns have these impactful experiences because they actually need you to do the work. And so if they really want people who can get in there and, you know, really want to do it, not just watch it be done. It sounds like you both took advantage of that. So last question before I open it up to all of you all to questions. What advice do you have for an applicant to this program? Whoever wants to start.
Yeah, I think being in this room, like for the info session, is definitely a great start. I remember starting really early to the point where it's like the school year started and I was like, when is it going up? Like but I worked at Beyond Barnard as well as a PCA. So it was very much funny to kind of see me use that to my own kind of skill sets applied to the application process. But definitely like take interest in it. Look at the website, both Beyond Barnard, like they kind of list that as well. But also I did my own research on like what Yale Liman Law is, like what they do, why is it public interest, what their missions are, and very much like went that route, trying to like align myself, or just seeing if I like there's a connection there, and making sure that I'm interested in this opportunity. But I also used Beyond Barnard. I met with fellowship directors, kind of I wasn't sure where I wanted to head with my reflective essay, and I knew that was one that I would have a really hard time completing. So I started early, I booked those appointments, I helped kind of draft those ideas, and then I used basically like a structure that helped me really write that from a really authentic and genuine perspective. I wasn't writing just to like check off their points. I was writing it with a connection to my own personal story and personal outcomes. So start early, use Beyond Barnard, and research places you really want to go to, like you want to work at. I think Mary kind of nailed that point earlier as well, but I would make that list this break maybe and try to see where you can work and see if you can connect with like the internship directors or just the directors in general and see if that's an opportunity you want to pursue in the summer.
I would agree with Sharmi on like everything she said. I think the Liman website lists previous organizations people have interned with, so from Barnard, but also from all the other undergraduate affiliates. And so that was a really helpful tool for me to see sort of like where the Liman Fellowship allowed people to intern. And I think that that comes through when you write your essay and you just sort of, you're talking about how the Liman Fellowship will help you like reach those, whatever broader goal you have, but also then like the immediate goal of next summer, like how the fellowship will help you get this internship, what it will enable you to do. I mean, the stipend's really great because it allows you to work full time basically at these places where otherwise you probably wouldn't be able to work full time because you wouldn't be getting paid. At least that was my experience. So that was something that was meaningful. And also the Liman Colloquium is a really incredible experience. Like Lindsay said, definitely don't discount that either. It was really cool to connect with other public interest, other undergrads interested in public interest law, but also law students and law professors. And I ended up using some of those connections made at the colloquium and then also like within the cohort to help me sort of figure out where I was going to intern. And they were super helpful. So like the law professors, they were all eager to help, which is so nice to be connected to that. That network of people. I had something else to say, but I can't remember.
It's okay. So now we have Q&A. So if you think about it, just pop on in. So now is your chance, folks who are here to talk to Mary and Sharmi. So ask questions. Feel free to come off mute or put them in the chat, direct message, and I can ask for you. There was one question in the chat just to share, just the broad question that others may have about do internships in government count as public interest law, or is it limited to nonprofits? And law-related government internships do count. So they're a little harder to find, but if that is something that you can find, then that would definitely count for this sort of program. Also, positions at clinics that are connected to law schools can count as well. So, any questions, please?
Okay. I'm sorry if this was asked before, but is there any other like requirements besides the essays, like letters of recommendation, et cetera, et cetera? I can probably check this, but I was just wondering.
Yeah, there are no, the requirements that were stated, so there is not a recommendation letter requirement or like a transcript requirement for this program. It's the resume and the essay about yourself, the reflective essay, and then an internship statement.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And yes, the stipend for last summer was $5,000. It's looking to be about the same. That information, we're just working with funding right now, but it's looking like that's going to be that for the summer. But hands, so Talia, I saw your hand first.
Hey, I realize this might also be addressed on the website, so I'm sorry if I'm asking this again, but is there a geographical range of like where the internship is allowed to take place if it is in person?
No. No. Typically they're located in major cities, but that's not always the case. And as long as it falls into that public interest parameter, then it's fine.
I think it needs to be in the US. I just remember.
Yeah.
Test,
yes.
That's the only thing, because that didn't used to be the case, I guess. So
yes, US based, but other than that, you can do it other places. So Olivia, I think you were next with the hand.
Yeah, in terms of looking at the resume when you guys are reviewing it, how important is past experience in the public interest sector when you guys are looking over resumes? Like, are you looking for candidates who have had a lot of experience already, or is it okay if they haven't yet to enter that field?
Yeah, it's okay if there isn't any experience really. We just want to see what you've been up to. It doesn't have to map to this program, because we know that a lot of times there aren't opportunities to have these types of experiences, whether because they're unpaid or given your class year. And so we just want a resume that is formatted well, that looks like you take some time on it. We just want to get a better idea of how you spend your time. But the connection to public interest should be very clear in your essay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. And I see some questions in the chat. How long are the reflective essay and internship statement? So the internship statement is about a paragraph. The essay is 1 to 2 pages. There will be specific word counts in the application, but no more than 2 pages for the essay. Should the internship be unpaid? Yes, unpaid or low paid. That usually isn't hard to find in this field, as most of them are, but yeah, that's that. And do we need letters of recommendation? No, we do not require recommendations or transcripts about you telling us about you. Any questions for Mary and Charmy specifically about their experiences or anything that they have not covered? Yep, I see the hand.
I'm just curious if you both knew like specifically what type of public interest you were interested in, or if it like came out when you wrote the application. I don't know if that makes sense. Like if you knew you were interested just in law broadly and then but you didn't know what kind.
Yeah, I can go first. I was interested in immigration law, and I'd interned at a refugee resettlement agency the summer before. I was like a part-time intern, but I didn't like do law tasks in that internship. It was like within their volunteer services part of that organization. So I knew I was interested in immigration law. That was an interest that kind of changed as I was applying to different places for the summer though. So I think that like I knew I was interested in law generally. I thought when I was writing my application that I was going to be interning again at like more of an immigration law centric place. But then after I went to the Liman Colloquium and spoke to people who were had done their internships in public defense, I kind of thought that that was sort of more my lane. And so I started applying to places that had to do with that more. But I think like if you have like an interest generally in like human rights and people in general, I think that like you can really focus that on your application. Like I had done a bunch of volunteering work too in New York City that I think I like wrote about even more so than my internship. So I think like even if you don't have that experience, there are like other ways you can demonstrate that interest.
Yeah, I definitely think just having interest in like people-centric work and putting people at the center when it comes to like law is the essence of like Lyman as well as public interest law. But also like Renata, not to speak on her behalf, did like Earth Institute. So that's
the Earth Justice Center.
yeah, the Earth Justice Center. So that's very much different from like more of like Victoria, Mary, and I is like focused more towards immigration. But to answer your question more straightforwardly, I had an idea. I also did immigration work with a labor and migrant workers association. So I was like, maybe I'll do something similar, but I knew that I wanted to expand like my reach in terms of like the communities I wanted to like work with more towards like Asian American population. So I was very intentional in searching for those internships that kind of somehow check the box, but I know would give me a leeway in terms of like, I'm open to anything that can give me the opportunity to learn and like make the impact in the community. So it's a very roundabout answer, but you'll find a one that fits for you.
Yeah, and in looking at people's essays and conducting the interviews for this program last year, it was very clear. People did apply with a very clear vision of what public interest meant to them. And so given, again, because we're going to speak on Renata's behalf, but she, like, her essay was very clear about climate. Her internship was very clear, like climate as public interest, which was, it all came across, it all came together. And so if you have the time before the application to really start to hone in, it's not something that you need to devote your entire career to. But for the purpose of this, if there's something you want to try out, if there's a specific area that you're really interested in, then you should absolutely take some time to look into it more, to figure out how you can connect yourself to it for your application. We've got a few questions in the chat. Are there a fixed number of spots for this fellowship? Yes, so there are 4 fellows usually, given the amount of funding. That, again, don't anticipate that changing for next year. And then, do most accepted students have their internships secured already? Actually, no, only 1 had their internship secured last year at the time that they were accepted. And so it's very much like we're making decisions based on the students and based on their amazingness, and because we all know Beyond Barnard will be able to find you internships. So it's really about you selling you and your experience and the impact you want to make to us. Any final questions for our panelists? Any final thoughts? Anything that's been kind of dug up throughout this conversation?
Think about the reflective essay, like that's really important to me. Like when I was really starting this application process, talk to the other cohorts, but really use as many resources as you can, so that the application process is not as stressful, and you could like make it a lot stronger than you have initially imagined, per se, than starting the night before, which you probably can still like thrive and do well, but I definitely use all my resources to land this fellowship.
Yeah, definitely just use Beyond Barnard. I think I had a professor read over my reflective statement before I turned it in. Like, they know what these kinds of programs are looking for. So like they can be a helpful resource if you're close with the professor. Like they gave me some really good critiques, which was helpful. So yeah, just don't stress yourself too much. Oh my gosh, don't stress yourself out too much about it, but also like give it the time that it's worth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're definitely not alone in this process, and advisors here in the office are understanding, like they know what we're looking for. And even if it's not a conflict to talk to a Beyond Barnard advisor about the program, your essays, application, anything with that. So thank you so much, panelists. I appreciate your time, and forward to seeing what you all do next. And we're almost finished here. So next steps, so fill out the interest form if you have not. That's how we're going to both share the actual application open and close dates, and let you all know when it's open. Finish the semester strong, or as strong as possible. We all are at that point where burning the candle on both ends and running on fumes. So just focus on that. Take a break when you can. Think about the organizations you want to intern at, think about those things, but take a break, because it's been a long haul this semester. And then just check your email for updates. You'll get, this will be recorded and shared, or this is being recorded, will be shared. But for any of those logistical details, check your email. And if you have questions, you can email Beyond Barnard. So thank you. See a lot of thank yous in the chat. I see folks are leaving, but if you've stuck around because you have other questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.